Are you a writer whose mind is a whirlwind of creativity and distraction? Hello and welcome to Writing While Distracted, the podcast that helps you transform your scattered thoughts into literary brilliance. I'm your host, Brenda Murphy, your NeuroSpicy writing coach. For writers of all kinds, but particularly those dealing with distraction and mental health issues, on this podcast you'll hear tips for staying focused amidst the chaos of your mind, along with writing advice to help you find your story's beginning and use your strengths to get to the end of your novel. Here, creativity thrives in the midst of chaos. Stay tuned as we discuss revisions and editing, aka the fun part. Revisions and editing are, to me, the fun part of writing. As giddy as I am writing my first draft, not caring if it will meld together at the end, I'm even more stoked to start revisions. Revisions are the time to sort all the things that were unclear in the draft and find ways to shine up the prose so it reflects and shows what you want to communicate. For folks who edit as they write, this list and podcast will most likely not make sense or will seem unnecessary or redundant. However, if you are like me and start your writing process with a fast, rough draft that's messy and needs a lot of revision, this podcast will provide insight on how to organize your revision and editing process. As someone who struggles with executive function, having a list and guidelines helps me stay on task and not overlook important items. In my workflow, revisions and editing are two different mindsets. Revisions are when I take a hard look at story structure, pacing, character arcs, story continuity, and attending to genre conventions. Is the bad person caught before the bad thing happens? Does the romance hit its beats? During revisions, I also attend to all of the notes I made to myself while drafting about items that required research. Revisions are the heart of creating the story, and it's the opportunity to focus on telling the story you want to tell in the way that you want to tell it. Editing is when I correct spelling, grammar, punctuation, review my language and word choices, and replace overused words, repetitive phrases, and refine my prose. Editing is also when I examine dialogue, scene descriptions, character descriptions, and again, continuity. And did you see that I said continuity twice? That's because it's so easy to miss, especially if you struggle with executive function, which most of us that are NeuroSpicy, if you are ADD, ADHD, on the autism spectrum, other mental health issues, depression, distraction, all of those things contribute to having executive function that needs help and assistance and guidelines. And so this process, this list of steps, is what I'm hoping will help you in your revision process. This is the process that I use to get my rough as hell draft to a finished product ready to send to an editor, a publisher, or send out on submission. Here are the steps that I take. Round 1. Revisions for structure, pacing, and character arcs. Genre conventions, continuity, and sorting items that require research. Round 2. Language. Your word choice, refining prose, your pacing, dialogue, scene descriptions, character descriptions, and continuity. Round 3. Proofing. Grammar, spelling, punctuation edits, line edits, formatting for submission or publication. This is where if you have sent your draft after you've revised it a bit out to copy editors, you will get your copy edits back and you will put those copy edits and line edits into your finished project. Round 4. Final proofing. This is the read through before you hit that button and send it off to your publisher, your acquiring editor, or submission to a contest, wherever you're sending this thing. This is your final read through before you let it go. I will have a concise list of these steps in the show notes for you to have. And this is a routine that I follow for every novel, novella, and short story that I've ever written for submission or publication in order to increase my chances of being accepted. And in the case of indie publishing, having a product that I am proud to put my name on. Taking the time to ensure that your work is edited to the best of your ability is key to increasing your chances of your work being read and accepted for either publication or representation by an agent A poorly edited work will be an auto rejection, no matter who you're sending it to. It won't matter if you've written an outstanding novel if it's riddled with errors and misspellings. This goes for indie publishing also. I have stopped reading more than one promising story because the writer could not be bothered to attend to basic grammar and spelling. And I'm not talking about a few misspelled words. No matter how many times and how many eyes look over a document, nothing is ever going to be perfect. And if you have a longer document, 80,000 words, 100,000 words, there are going to be some typos in there. There are going to be a few mistakes. But in the first 10 pages, if I run across, let's say, 10 misspellings or grammar errors in the first 10 pages, I am going to wonder about the rest of the book. And I may not spend that time on it. And I think because readers have so many options for books to pick up and read, if you don't impress them in those first 5 to 10 pages by having a well-written and well-edited piece for them to read, your work will not be read. And that's the hard truth of it. There are too many other books that they can pick up. They will do not finish. They will probably post that they didn't finish your book, and they may mention why. So take time with your story. You've written a wonderful story. Now fix it so everybody else knows how wonderful it is, and so it closely resembles the story that's in your head. At this point, you're probably wondering where editors and beta readers fit into this process. Developmental editors vary in what services they provide. Jane Friedman has a great article on hiring a developmental editor, and I will add a link to that in the show notes. Her newsletter is one of my favorites and always contains helpful information and links. So when you hit that article, take a chance and sign up for her newsletter. I think you'll find it as helpful as I do. It's one of my must-reads whenever it hits my inbox. The definitions for what is expected of copy editors, line editors, and proofreaders are for the most part straightforward. Copy editors focus on formatting, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, and continuity. Line editors are concerned with flow, meaning, sentence structure, rhythm of the language, and proofreaders are tasked with catching any formatting errors and typos in the final copy before the work is published. Beta readers. Now, what do your beta readers do? Beta readers offer you a way to test out your story in the same way that computer programmers and developers have beta versions of a project that they have select people test to see if it's going to do what they want it to do, to see if it meets expectations, or if it can be improved upon. And that's what a good beta reader does for you. They read your story and they'll let you know what works, what doesn't work, what they wanted to see, what they wish they could see, and anything else that you want to ask them about your manuscript. And the thing about a beta reader is that trust that you develop with them. Once you find a beta reader that you can trust to tell you the truth, no matter how painful, treasure that friendship, that relationship, because that's what you need. Someone who will tell you the hard truth, like, I didn't like this character because, and I think they would make a better character if you did these things, or your storyline fell apart in the second act. I'm confused here. Who is speaking? I don't know what you're saying. Or I just didn't like the book. I didn't like the outcome or whatever. And can give you specific reasons why or what they wished was different. They're gold. It's a way to test your work before you send it out into the world to an editor, to a publisher, or if you're an indie publisher, to your readers to make sure it's a product that you're proud of and that they're going to like. For you NeuroSpicy folks out there, I know you're looking at the list and rounds of edits above and freaking the heck out. And I get it. It's a lot. I freak myself out every time I look at that list because I know how long those steps are going to take me. And it kept me from writing a book for years because I would be so daunted about the editing process and the revision process. It was like standing at the foot of the tallest mountain and looking at that winding trail, including the part of the trail that went behind the mountain that you couldn't even see, and looking at the top and wondering, how the heck am I going to do all that? It's overwhelming. And it is easy to get overwhelmed when you're NeuroSpicy. So what made me take the first step in actually finishing a longer manuscript? So what made me take the first step in finishing a longer manuscript, in finishing a book-length project? I like to say it was delusion, desperation, and a promise I made to a dear friend that I didn't dare disappoint. If you're struggling with your rough draft and you don't know how to take that first step in creating a finished manuscript, use this list to get started. Promise yourself you won't give up on your story and hold on to your dreams of having a published novel with your name on the cover. It is not impossible, and you can learn how to be mindful of all the things that go into producing a novel by making yourself a checklist. Use the one in the show notes, and don't be discouraged if it seems to take you forever to work through the steps. Every long journey begins with that first step. Stopping yourself before you start is the only sure way of not finishing the journey. Enlist others to help you. That's what beta readers can do for you. That is what copy editors can do for you. That's what your friends can do for you. If you have writers that you're friends with, help each other, work with each other, make appointments to work together. Even if that's over Zoom, just knowing that someone else is working when you're working, or that you have a set date to work on your novel, work on your revisions, can be enough to get you into a groove to start your revision process and to keep going. As we go forward in the podcast, I'm going to offer my best insights for how to organize each step in this process, and we'll include book recommendations and resources in each of the show notes for those podcasts. So take a breath. Know that it's possible. Know that you can do this. And until next time, keep writing. Thanks for tuning in to Writing While Distracted, where we navigate the winding roads of creativity amidst the chaos of distraction. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave a rating or review. It really helps get the podcast in front of more folks. Remember, in the dance between focus and diversion, every stumble is a step closer to mastering the art of writing. Join us next time as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the writer's mind. Until then, keep writing, keep wandering, and embrace the distractions that fuel your creativity. Stay tuned, stay inspired.